Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Cathy McGrath, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today's issue of the Neepawa Banner and Press is for Friday, March 21st, 2025, the first full day of spring. And on the front page, I was blown away. Gladstone Community provides major support for band program by Casper Werhan. This donation from the Gladstone Legion to William Morton Collegiate Institute was part of a community effort to support the school's band program recently. Pictured left to right are Ernie Tester, president of Manitoba and Northwest Ontario Command, band teacher Sean Gertson, and Sylvia Hayward, president of Gladstone Branch 110. The band program at William Morton Collegiate Institute received quite the boost recently. That boost comes in the form of approximately $16,000 in donations. These funds are to be used for the purpose of acquiring additional instruments for the program, as well as replacing old instruments that are due for retirement. I started at the school almost 3 years ago. Since then, the program has grown a lot, said band teacher Sean Gertson. We've got almost double the amount of kids now. Gertson shared half that staff saw there was a need for more instruments. However, the budget wasn't in place where the new acquisitions and instruments updates could be made. Then one of the staff pitched the idea of a community donation campaign. Gladstone is a community of generations, and many of the people that are in the school, their parents, grandparents, and aunts and uncles are still in the area. All people who have gone through the school and value music, Gertson shared, so we thought we should give people the opportunity to give back to the band program in a financial way. After putting out letters and flyers to the community, individuals and businesses responded with astounding support. Together, they brought in just over $4,000. It just goes to show how much people in the community value music, Gertson enthused. Since he began at William Morton, Gertson has made an effort to create more of a presence for the band program. This includes the creation of a community band and playing music for a variety of events. I think that has helped people see the value of supporting the program as well, said Gertson. The amount raised by the broader community was also supplemented by a major surprise donation of $12,000. After a week or so of those being sent out, I got a call from the Legion. They hadn't received a letter, but they had heard about it from people on their board, who mostly live in the area. They wanted me to come to a meeting, and I pitched my case for why this was important and what I needed, Gertson explained. They were very understanding, and when I listed off a wish list of what I was hoping for, and you usually say more things than you expect you can get, but at the end they said, "What do you need for all of this?" So it was a very, very generous offer from them to support the program. Gertson added, I was blown away. I honestly was expecting that the Legion, would donate maybe 1,000 or something like that. But when they were offering such full support for what I had asked, it feels so special. It was so nice to see local groups like that caring for and supporting things in the community. Sharing a final word of appreciation, Gertson emphasized his appreciation for rural towns such as Gladstone. These rural towns, people in the day may think they are dying, but there's a real sense of community spirits in these places, Gertson enthused. And the Salvation Army prepares for upcoming major project by Joshua Jackson. The Neepawa Salvation Army is excited about the future and took to the Neepawa Rotary Club to share more about what they do for the community and future expansion plans. The Salvation Army has served the area, helping those in need. Now an upcoming project hopes to expand the capacity of the not-for-profit. The Salvation Army Community Services Neepawa is committed to providing individuals and families support through establishing, promoting, and supporting programming with a focus on food security and food literacy, strengthening families, and supporting individuals holistically in achieving their personal goals while guided by the Salvation Army. We're a hidden resource in this community, and I feel we are a huge asset to what we bring to this community. We are so much more than just a thrift store, said Amanda Nightingale, the Community Ministry Director for the Neepawa Salvation Army. The Salvation Army has 3 main pillars within Neepawa. Its thrift store, which helps fund 85% of operations. In 2024, the Neepawa Salvation Army accumulated $285,000 in retail sales and completed 22,628 transactions, averaging 443 weekly customers. The nonprofit offers community services such as the food bank, Christmas hampers, food literacy programs, resource connections, emergency services, capacity building, and serves as a community partner. The Salvation Army is due for a long-needed expansion slated to start in April. The not-for-profit organization acquired the former Rock and Roll Animal House site in the old co-op building, located directly behind the Salvation Army, and are creating a separate area for their services. We are moving all of our family services into one location. If you walked into the thrift store, you will never think that we have a food bank and do all of these other things out of there, she said. I think it's important for us to have more public access to services that we are providing. The new expansion plans include a new reception area, a redesigned food bank, and a community kitchen, which in turn will help the Salvation Army process donated food. The Salvation Army will also add an expanded meeting and training space. The Salvation Army also plans to add a satellite food bank in the community of McGrath due to an increase in demand and mobility issues. The need for expansion. The Neepawa Salvation Army saw an uptick in usage, a 17% increase since 2023. They anticipate further escalation in usage numbers due to political tariffs and an ever-evolving economic instability. In 2024, they assisted 673 households with around 162,000 of food given out. Last year, 42% of those that the Salvation Army assisted were children. Some of the top reasons why people are accessing the Neepawa Food Bank includes the cost of food, the cost of housing, immigrating to Neepawa, an ongoing need, and employment and income assistance, among other reasons. Folks on employment and income assistance, which we know is social assistance, do not have enough money to survive every month, said Nightingale. A single person has about $100 a month to live off of, whether that's paying for a phone, clothing, groceries, medication, or anything of that nature. $100 doesn't get you very far. The Salvation Army also plays a critical role within the community to keep food waste from grocery stores to a minimum. The not-for-profit has a food rescue program where it takes food from various local retailers deemed not fit to sell. For example, when a food item is near or past the best before date, which differs from the expiry date. Last year, the Salvation Army rescued 52,387 pounds of food from local businesses. Nightingale said local grocers are great at saying, hey, this item is almost at its best before. We're going to throw it in the freezer, and points to protein in particular. We pick it up 6 days a week, and that has been great to pop it into our freezers. That is a blessing because we haven't had to purchase frozen protein for families for a very long time because of that, she said. That is a huge savings on our part, and a huge blessing for families who can get chicken, beef, or pork that night. It's something they might not be picking up from a grocery store regularly. And right in the center by Ken Waddell. Canada never has been smart on tariffs policy. The recent furor about US imposed tariffs has had a disturbing effect on Canadians, but an author by the name of David Clinton has some interesting things to say about Canadian tariffs and similar measures. Clinton has written, "The Customs Tariff Act governs Canada's import tariffs. All goods entering Canada from countries on the most favored nation list that aren't eligible for lower rates through trade agreements are subject to tariff charges as high as 17%. Here are some practical cases of imports from the US that aren't covered by the Canada-US-Mexico Agreement trade agreement. US t-shirts using imported fabric could face an 18% tariff, adding $18,000 to a $100,000 shipment. A $30,000 US assembled car with Asian parts incurs $1,830 in duties. $50,000 of US strawberries could face $4,250 in seasonal duties if applied. $200,000 of steel wire from the US could face $108,000 in extra anti-dumping duties. Canada's supply management system for dairy, poultry, and egg is a notorious example of a policy that looks and sounds like an import tariff. Supply management is governed by a combination of federal and provincial laws, including the Export and Import Permits Act and the Farm Products Agencies Act. Regulations can hit over-quota imported cheese with rates as high as 245.5%, and chicken can be taxed at 238%, and that's assuming you somehow manage to score an import permit from Global Affairs Canada. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency enforces strict sanitary and phytosanitary measures that often require layers of inspections or certification requirements that can significantly raise compliance costs. The differences between some of those requirements and an economic tariff are not always obvious. The Canada Border Services Agency collects an excise tax on imported liquor. For example, a U.S. exporter looking to ship 100 liters of 40% ABV whiskey to Canada will face a duty of $467.84, 100 times 0.4 times 11.696. That duty must be paid by the importer. The various Canadian content, CanCon, rules governing broadcast media will also undermine the principle of free trade, even if those rules won't necessarily increase import costs. Clinton's article lists a number of other Canadian imposed trade restrictions, but the above list gives a pretty good insight that shows Canada's rules aren't a lot different from the pressures the United States is putting on Canada. In addition, Canada putting a big tariff on cheap Chinese electric vehicles, EVs, doesn't make any sense, because if the Canadian government is determined to reduce gas emissions and Canadians don't produce any electric cars, why would they penalize consumer and China by making EVs twice as expensive as they could be? Dauphin Swan River and Neepawa MP Dan Mazur describes the U.S. tariffs as a punch in the face, and Canada putting on tariffs is like punching ourselves in the face. It's quite evident that Canada's imposed tariffs punched ourselves in face twice, as China has put tariffs on Canadian canola products and pork. Thanks, Trudeau and Carney, we don't get a chance to buy cheap EVs, and they do have a place for short-distance travel, and we endangered our canola and pork industry. If we study Canadian history, we will see that Canada has been tripping itself up with tariffs since before Confederation in 1867. You would think we might learn from the past. As for the future, we need to look at every way we can tear down interprovincial trade barriers. We may well see our greenhouse and hydroponics food industry grow, and maybe we will have to drink less orange juice. I think Canada could replace oranges and orange juice with our own Canadian-grown apples and juice. And Home Buddies by Rita Friesen. I not talk a you. As one who loves to read and speak, correct grammar has always been truly important to me. It was not uncommon that a child, when speaking, would suffer my corrections. There was an upside and a downside. Ed quietly and firmly told me that if I continued to interrupt a child to correct their grammar, they would become less willing to share daily occurrences, and that could progress to fewer shared confidences. I took his counsel as seriously as I could. An upside for me was when a new member of the family asked me to offer correction to them in the same manner I did the rest of the family. I proceeded with caution. Out of this learning came the expression, "I not talk a you." A grandchild was probably 5 or 6, and while talking with cousins, I interjected with a correct verb, tense, or something. With a patient look one gives an old lady, the child simply informed me that they weren't talking to me. In effect, none of your business. I heard that with my heart. Countless times as a full-grown adult, my heart has murmured that expression. You know, when you're in a meaningful conversation, attempting to justify or explain, and a third party present chips in advance and suggestions. Really, I not talk of you. The expression isn't far from one that was popular in the 1990s, talk to the hand. It originated as a sarcastic way of saying one does not want to hear what the person who is speaking is saying. The full phrase was, talk to the hand, 'cause the ears ain't listening. So not exactly the same. However, the message to butt out or shut up does come across. I can't say that I missed that extended hand, palm out. I also can't say that there aren't times when it is exactly what I want to say. True confession, I have the ability to be engaged in one conversation and follow a conversation that is flowing behind or beside me. One suggestion is that as a child, to feel safe, I needed to be fully aware of the dynamics in a space or room. Root cause doesn't change the ability, and I am also fully aware that I am not the only one who has this gift, or curse. We hear conversations that are not intended for our ears, and we really shouldn't add our opinions to that other discussion. Indeed, they not talk of me. Much of the conflict in a family, community, nation, and world could be diminished if we would listen to each other. Listen to the heart and hope in the point of view. Listen while not formulating a rebuttal. Simply listen. Here's where I have to admit that I don't always want to listen, for I don't want to change my mind. We know that COVID dramatically changed family and community dynamics. These rifts didn't magically go away when the urgency of the pandemic lessened. Both fields of thoughts were fixed lines, and I, for one, often felt talk to the hand was the best and kindest thought I could think. Lesson, mind my own business and be gentle. And Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroshine, Walking the Road of Heartbreak. One of the hardest experiences through which any minister must go, and we all have to do it at least once, is hearing a faithful church member announce that he or she will be leaving the minister's congregation and moving to another. Some of these departures, though sad, are understandable. No minister would deny someone the opportunity to move closer to family, to a community with better job opportunities, or that is closer to required medical treatments. And when aging members must move into a care home, their departures, though sad, are understandable. But nothing in this life comes close to the pain Jesus endured when Judas Iscariot, one of the most trusted disciples, left the team. As we read through the Gospels, we learn that Judas kept the common purse, John 12:6. Jesus and the other disciples trusted Judas to keep what meager funds they had safe and to use them only when necessary to meet the legitimate needs of Jesus and his disciples. But Judas was a thief. He regularly stole funds from the treasury and used his ill-gotten gain to buy some land close to the city of Jerusalem, Acts 1:18. We also learn that he was in regular contact with those who were plotting Jesus' death and who, Judas knew, might be willing to pay him to help them carry out their plan. Jesus certainly knew what Judas was doing, but he could not reveal what he knew until the time was right. That happened the night before he died, as he and his disciples shared their final meal together. Jesus shocked them all when he said, "One of you is going to betray me." And when they asked him who the traitor was, Jesus said, "It is the one to whom I will give this bread after I have dipped it." He took some bread, dipped it in the pot of stew that was on the table, gave it to Judas, looked him in the eye and said, "Do quickly what you are going to do." See John 13:26-27. The look on Jesus' face and the words he spoke told Judas that Jesus knew everything about him. All the thefts, all the payments on the plot of land, all the discussions he had had with the religious leaders about betraying Jesus into their hands, the money they agreed to pay for his services, and precisely when the betrayal would take place. This was too much for Judas. He got up from the table and left the room. His breach of trust had been exposed. His plots had been uncovered. Yes, Jesus was not about to do anything to keep him from carrying out his plans. As far as Judas was concerned, he had only one option: keep his part of the deal he had made with Jesus' enemies. It is hard to imagine the heartbreak Jesus must have felt as he watched Judas leave the room that night. It's the same heartbreak he feels whenever people turn their backs on him and refuse to seek forgiveness for sins they have committed and for which he died. Despite the severity of his sins, there was hope for Judas. He could have repented of his sins and he could have been forgiven. So can we. God's offer hasn't changed. But will we take advantage of it? Is there any good reason why we should not turn from our sins and receive the forgiveness God offers through Jesus Christ? I can't think of one. Can you? Then why not do it today? And we have thumbs up and thumbs down. Thumbs up to the Beautiful Plains Community Foundation. With the help of 2 different grants, we've been able to replace windows and 2 exit doors on our community center and nursery school. In small communities with limited means of fundraising, that support is critical for the survival of local organizations and gathering places. You do good work. We do appreciate your help. And that is from Norma Summers on behalf of the Bernie Community Club. And thumbs down from Jim Krasaniak. Either properly maintain the skating rink ice at the flats or don't do it at all. Just being able to say, we're at least going to have one skating ice just doesn't cut it. No excuses. And a huge thumbs down to the Westlake Gladstone Municipal Office. Called there to let them know water is very hard in Plumas right now. Was told to call a number that is long distance for Plumas residents, as that is the only number to contact the person who is supposed to maintain the water and safety of water for the residents. Wanted to talk to the CAO or the assistant CO and was told by a staff by the name of Julie I couldn't talk to anyone else and no one else can help me, and to bad it's long distance for me, but if I would leave a message, Richard the maintenance man would get back to me. In this day and age, why the hell should we have to call long distance numbers within our municipality and only one person to contact? The water treatment in Plumas is not being maintained. This now poses a potential health risk, in my opinion. I'm contacting the NDP government and the health department to let them know. A quarter century into the 21st century, and this kind of BS is taking place. Unacceptable. From Mary Johnson of Plumas. And then we have some letters. This is, yes, but. Editor's note, the following submission features comments from a lifelong friend, Ray Bullman, formerly of Moline, Manitoba, on my column for this week's edition of the Banner and Press. I regularly seek Ray's opinions and hope you will enjoy them as well. Dear Ken, I think all of my comments are yes, but. 1. Yes, a nice list of various trade barriers, both tariff and non-tariff barriers, but I'm guessing there is an equivalent list of tariff and non-tariff barriers that Canadian exporters face when shipping to the USA. 2. Yes, a tariff on Asian parts embedded in US cars coming into Canada, but why is this tariff so low? 3. Yes, a tariff on strawberries coming into Canada during Canada's strawberry season. Why is that tariff so low? 4. Yes, a tariff on USA wire, but this is an anti-dumping tariff. That is, only imposed if there is evidence of dumping. That is, the price is less than the cost of the production. Yes, we can have a long conversation on Canada's supply management sectors, but are we ready for the regional impact of dismantling supply management? From where I live, I can walk to 3 dairy barns, milking maybe 40 cows per farmer, about 80 cows for 2 brothers in partnership. This would be 40 plus 40 plus 80 equals 160 dairy cows. If we opened this up to the USA model of 400 to 4,000 dairy cows being milked in one enterprise, these 3 farms could be gone, and that would be a significant economic hit within my walking radius. The Economic Union got rid of their quotas with a policy that got rid of the quota system over maybe 10 years. I forget the details here, but there is an EU policy experience that suggests one way to proceed, and I do not know if they have gone to the 400 to 4,000 scale of dairy enterprises. Also, our eggs have not approached US $10 per dozen because our flocks are smaller, and the system of managing bird flu is accepted, and thus early cases of bird flu are reported voluntarily, and the quota held by these farmers guarantees they will have a market in which to sell their eggs when they get restarted. 6. Yes, phytosanitary standards are a de facto trade barrier, but we may prefer our quality level of phytosanitary standards compared to the standards used by those wanting to export to Canada. 7. Yes, paying more for USA whiskey in Canada compared to what American sippers pay for in the USA is a tariff. But is $4.67 per 1 liter bottle really a burden to the sober whiskey aficionados? 8. Yes, CanCon rules are a tariff barrier, but I think these barriers should be higher to try and balance Canadian content versus foreign bump. I think it is not an economic issue, but rather an issue of encouraging Canadian content so that Canadian kids grow up with a bit of Canada content in their consumption of all this bump. 9. Yes, the Canadian tariff on Chinese vehicles were put in before Trump because Biden wanted to protect the USA auto industry, whether it was petrol vehicles or e-vehicles. I think Canada had to follow or lose all the car part and car assembly jobs in Canada. I think there is a good argument that the Chinese e-vehicles are priced below the cost of production because a lot of the cost of producing these cars was paid by the government, and thus the Canadian tariff on Chinese e-vehicles should be considered an anti-dumping tariff. Yikes, I've forgotten to insert a word. But fair play would suggest to me that a country should not sell a good or service below the cost of production. Hence, an anti-dumping tariff is fair game. Excuse me. Yes, in one sense, I agree with Mr. Mazur that the USA tariffs on Canadian exports are like a punch in the face. Economists have had fun over the years using game theory with varying assumptions, strategies to try and figure out whether, in this case, Canada should retaliate with tariffs on USA imports. Thus, the but is that if the bully punches us in the face, should we just take it and walk away and hope the bully does not follow us and deliver another punch? Or should we stand up to a bully and punch back? My knowledge of game theory is almost zero, but I am guessing that most game theorists would say that we need to punch back. Thus, quoting Mr. Mazur once may be appropriate, but I would not quote him twice. 11. Yes, Canada's hands are not perfectly clean, but all is not fair in love and war. All of the items at the end of your draft might be labeled as minor skirmishes. We are trying to level the playing field as viewed from Canada's point of view. I certainly agree that if the USA FDA, Food and Drug Administration, approves a drug, it certainly seems strange that we have also trusted the drug for efficacy. But in respect, I am not sure if I am ready to wholeheartedly accept an RFK FDA approval. So maybe it's a good thing that we developed our own capacity to test these drugs. 12. Okay, methinks you can predict how I might respond to the rest of your points in this draft. Ray Bowman, Wolfton, Nova Scotia. And, whoops, losing the paper. Out of Helen's kitchen. Dentistry. Having had to visit my dentist on several occasions lately, I was wondering about the history of dentistry. So here it goes. The earliest recorded dentist was an Egyptian named Hesir from 2600 BC. He extracted problem teeth, stabilized mobile teeth by packing materials around them, and offered pain preparations to help in the short term. In 5000 BC, the Sumerians, now southeastern Iraq, had a text that described tooth worms as the cause of dental decay. The idea continued spreading throughout different cultures. In the 1700s, French surgeon Pierre Fauchard published The Surgeon Dentist, a treatise on teeth, the first comprehensive dentistry book. He laid the groundwork for the future of dentistry. Before the field of dentistry came into existence, physicians sometimes performed teeth pulling, but did so barbers and blacksmiths. Extraction was the only treatment available for toothaches. Often they gave the patient a shot of whiskey, and extractions were accomplished by brute force with a pair of pliers. Hygiene was never a priority. At that time in history, you could be a king in Europe, but you were equal to a peasant when it came to tooth care. In the mid-18th century, European dentists arrived in Canada. Dentists were generally trained by the apprentice system, but lacking proper regulations, there was nothing stopping anyone from taking out newspaper ads claiming to be a dentist. The unsuspecting patient had no way to determine a proper dentist from a quack. In 1868, Ontario passed an act respecting dentistry, putting regulatory and licensing powers in the hands of the Royal College of Dental Surgeons of Ontario. More dental colleges were soon to follow in other parts of Canada. The establishment of dental schools and licensing bodies helped the dental profession ensure that practitioners had adequate training. As a result, dental care became more regulated and reliable. In the 1800s, cocaine was the first local anesthetic used in a dental procedure. In 1905, a new freezing agent, Novocaine, came on the scene and soon became widely used by dentists. It was safer and non-addictive, unlike cocaine. Nevertheless, many patients preferred to be put under for major dental work. The use of ether for office-based dentistry continued for many years. On the prairies, especially during the Depression years, many farm people came into the dentist's office with a live chicken or a few dozen eggs to pay for their dental services, a chicken for a tooth extraction. The famous Greek doctor Hippocrates was one of the first to recommend cleaning teeth what was called a dentifrice powder. The history of dental hygiene has come a long way since chewing sticks to clean teeth, and the urine mouthwash thought to disinfect mouths and whiten teeth. In the late 1700s, Englishman William Addis was the first to sell toothbrushes made of bone and pig bristles. A tooth powder was made using abrasive ingredients such as brick dust, pulverized bone, chalk, bicarbonate of soda, and a flavoring such as peppermint or cinnamon, and sold in glass containers. In the 1880s, a Connecticut dentist, Washington Wentworth Sheffield, came up with the idea of packing toothpaste in a squeezable bottle. In 1950, toothpaste containing fluoride was introduced. The first nylon toothbrush was made in 1938, followed by the electric toothbrush in the 1960s. As I sit in the dentist chair this week, I am thankful for these developments over the years, and I'm not living in the 1800s. With my sore tooth, I have been simmering up batches of homemade soup. No matter how you dish it up, homemade soup is fresher, tastier, and hearty enough to get you through the day. And she has included a lemon, chicken, and rice soup recipe for your enjoyment. And Your Listening Ear by Dulcie Martin. Walking with your partner in mental illness. Being the partner of someone who is struggling with their mental health is tough. The challenges usually begin early in the relationship and are consistent with time. Caregiver burnout is a very real thing. Being partnered with someone with mental health challenges add extra challenge to the relationship. But in these individuals, you will find loyalty, self-sacrifice, and a profound love. When we love someone, we accept them for their whole selves. We accept that we walk together and help each other equally in our struggles. Approach your partner and talk factually about the things you've noticed about them, like, I noticed you've been eating less. This will help the healthier bits of their brain to notice differences. It's very powerful to tell them how their behavior has been affecting you, but don't do this in an accusatory way. You can say, it hurts me to see you this way and I cannot help you. If your spouse is reacting to you negatively, it's very hard not to respond the same way. If they are constantly surrounded by a cloud of negativity, it's very hard for you not to bleed into your internal world. It is hurtful to hear your partner using self-depreciating statements, and it might make you wonder, are they looking for attention? No, they aren't looking for attention. They are dysregulated and in need of validation. When we are adults, we co-regulate with our intimate partners. Part of your role as a romantic partner is to give your partner love and validation when they are hurting. The more validation you give your partner doesn't mean you are spoiling them or that it will make them ask more. In fact, the more validation you give your loved one, especially if it without them asking, the less they will feel like a need to seek it or demand it from you. Sometimes you don't need words. When someone is depressed, one of your most powerful tools is holding space for them. Physically touch your partner if they are comfortable. Say, I see you are hurting. I love you and I'm here for you. And just be present with them. Often they don't want advice. They don't want you to fix it. They just want you to validate their emotions and experience. Humans have energy, and being in the same physical space as your loved one, projecting loving and non-judgmental energy, has a massive healing effect. Communication is key. Be assertive and direct with stating your needs with your partner, but hold intentional space to listen to your partner's needs, valuing them equally with your own. Have realistic expectations of your spouse. Sometimes it's hard to know what those are, so become more knowledgeable about your partner's mental health struggles. It shows them that you are genuinely interested in them and can help you feel empowered. When making requests of your partner, do try to limit your requests to one issue at a time. Those with mental illness are battling their own minds while trying to meet your needs. Begin and end the conversation on a positive note, with an acknowledgement of your partner's good qualities or validation of their internal experience. Prepare for negative response from your partner. The negative response in your partner's brain fighting against this new way of communication. Don't judge or try to change your partner's negative reaction. They are entitled to their feelings, and the knee-jerk emotional reactions are more difficult to control. Balance your needs and your spouse's needs. You can't be operating on an empty fuel tank. It's okay to say no. It's okay to take care of yourself. In caregiver burnout, your internal flame of compassion that is usually ignited is either burning low or gone. You feel a profound sense of exhaustion and sometimes apathy when thinking about caring for your loved one. These feelings are serious, and if you suspect you might be struggling with caregiver burnout, please seek out help for yourself. Your spouse loves you very much and needs to know that you are cared for. And Neepawa's Robert Ferguson honored with King Charles III Coronation Medal. By Owen Devereux, and pictured MP for Dauphin Swan River Neepawa, Dan Mazier, presents the King Charles III Coronation Medal to Robert Ferguson of Neepawa. The dedication of a well-regarded Neepawa resident has been recognized with a prestigious royal tribute, as Robert Ferguson has received the King Charles III Coronation Medal. The commemoration, which was recreated to mark the coronation of King Charles, has been issued to just 30,000 Canadians. It is given to select members of the Canadian Armed Forces and public service, as well as individuals who have made significant contributions to the country. Ferguson has been honored due to his long-standing work as a teacher and a local volunteer, along with his involvement in the Veterans Affairs Canada program, 2006 to 2020. Dan Mazier, our Member of Parliament for Dauphin Swan River Neepawa, presented Ferguson with the medal and said it was a privilege to be part of the acknowledgement. As a teacher and mentor, Robert has spent countless years guiding students across Canada and beyond. Furthermore, Robert has volunteered with the Neepawa Air Cadets, the Royal Canadian Artillery Museum, the Royal Canadian Legion, and the Child and Family Services Board of Western Manitoba. Congratulations, Robert, on this well-deserved reward. Ferguson, meanwhile, noted that he was honored by the recognition, was also quick to share the accolades. It's an honor, and I appreciate, but something like this isn't about one person. There are so many others who are dedicated to the community, and each of every one of them is just as worthy, stated Ferguson. Robert Ferguson is not the only local individual to be honored with the Coronation Medal, as Mary Murray has also been recognized in this manner, and that story can be found in the March 7th edition of the Banner and Press. And a new northern newspaper in the works. The Thompson Chamber of Commerce and a dedicated group of community members in Thompson are working hard to re-establish a local newspaper after it ceased operations December 2024. The Thompson Citizen was owned by the Prairie News Group and shut down its operations and relocated their editor and reporter to another province. That was a surprise and somewhat of a shock to many readers and businesses that use the media channel for their advertising. At the time of its closure, the paper was delivering approximately 5,000 copies within the city and neighboring communities. The loss of the newspaper leaves residents in the region with a local radio station's social media for news coverage. The radio station tries to provide news coverage in a balanced fashion, said Thompson Chamber of Commerce President Ethel Timbang. Yet without a newspaper, you can cover local news in depth. You never know what to believe in the social media. This is why a community paper is so important, to provide balanced and accurate local and regional news. This ad hoc group is asking for public's help. They are searching for passionate individuals to take on key roles, including editor, manager, reporter, sales, design, and more. They are confident that the right people, full-time or part-time, can be found in the next few months. They would also like to see advertisers to commit to long-term contracts to ensure a steady source of revenue to cover expenses. They intend to enhance better coverage and distribution than the old paper provided previously. Volker Beckman, a spokesperson for the group, said, "We cannot depend on social media to provide accurate news information on many topics important to Northerners. That's why a community newspaper is so vital." If you're interested in helping revive this essential news source, please contact the following: the Thompson Chamber of Commerce at 204-677-4155 or email to commerce@mymts.net. Or contact Volker Beckman with any questions at 204-679-5194. You could become part of something new and exciting for Thompson and Northern Manitoba. Opinion, a friendly reminder for everyone around tax time, by Jody L. Wyman from Patterson's Taylor Law Patterson's. April is known as the month most of us have to ensure we get our personal income tax returns filed. It is also the time for some reminders from your family law lawyer. First, if you have an active file with a lawyer relating to a separation or parenting issues, make sure you give your lawyer a copy of your tax return when it is complete, as well as the notice of assessment you receive from the CRA. Instead of waiting for requests to come from either or both lawyers, simply emailing or dropping off a copy of the return to make sure it is available will save you money. Second, if you have a child and child support is an issue, both parents should exchange income tax returns and take a look at whether the support should be changed. The courts have decided that parents owe an obligation to their children to make sure the support remains reasonable and consistent with the child support guidelines. Third, if you are separated or divorced and have a child, be sure that CRA knows the child's parenting time schedule in order that the Canada Child Benefit can be paid in accordance with their rules. If one parent is collecting the full CCB, but CRA later determines that a benefit should have been shared, CRA will demand repayment. Fourthly, if periodic spousal support is being paid, the spouse receiving the payments must make sure to claim any and all monthly amounts they received in the previous year. The spouse paying spousal support can claim the payments as a tax deduction, but ensure they have provided a copy of the separation agreement or court order to CRA, as well as having proof of the actual payments made. Lastly, some legal fees can be tax deductible depending upon their purpose. If your accountant tells you that your fees may qualify, be sure to ask your lawyer for a summary of your total legal fees paid for the year and a letter confirming what legal issue they were for. And we've been growing ever since. Minnedosa produce business marks second anniversary, shares future plans. And pictured is Kim Moffat of Minnedosa, pictured left, owner of Little Garden Next Door, is celebrating the second anniversary of her at-home produce business. Pictured left, a partial view of one of Moffat's Harvest Today walls, which she used to grow her greens and herbs for community restaurants and residents, by Casper Warehan. Local is best. That's the motto of the Minnedosa-based greens and herbs growing known as Little Garden Next Door, owned and operated by Kim Moffat. This rural business is marking its 2nd anniversary this month. Little Garden Next Door is currently operated out of Moffat's home, utilizing vertical farming implements known as Harvest Today walls. With these walls and Moffat's own time and dedication, Little Garden Next Door provides fresh, locally grown greens and herbs to 2 local businesses, as well as a 25-person monthly subscription list. The Neepawa Banner and Press had the opportunity to speak to Moffat, who shared further insight in her plans for the future. My husband's a farmer. We went to Ag Days a few years ago and came across the Harvest Today booth. That was when lettuce had spiked up to a ridiculous price and everybody basically quit eating it, said Moffat. So before he was finished talking to the guy, he texted me and said, "I think I found your next thing." Moffat explained further, adding, "I've been running at-home businesses for the last 20 years. I previously had a screen printing business that I ran out of a basement, which I just sold this past June. After returning home from the Ag Days event, it was simply a matter of weeks before Moffat had her first wall set up, crops in, and selling produce to Main Street Cafe and Farmhouse 50. They've been on board and great supporters of ours since day one," said Moffat. "Our wall wouldn't cut it, however, as the early response from those who saw it at home garden was so positive. Everybody that had seen the garden was just as excited about it as we were, and there was definitely a need," Moffat enthused. "We've been growing ever since. After adding more walls since the business initially kicked off, Little Garden Next Door currently grows approximately 1,780 plants. This is expected to expand even further, as Moffat currently is in the process of preparing a 24 by 24 building next to her home to become a dedicated grow house for the business. A bigger pot for the plant, one might say. We'll be able to double what we grow right away with the Harvest Today walls in there, and then we'll be able to double again by lining the outside with the Harvest Today walls. So we'll be at around 5,000 plants," said Moffat. "I'm hoping we'll be able to supply some more restaurants and more of our community directly." Moffat currently looks forward to hopefully hosting a few open houses as well as a grand opening once the new building is complete. While the business has experienced such positive growth, Moffat also states that she wants to ensure that the focus remains local. "We never personally want to be so big that we're not supplying our community. So the next big dream, I guess, is to be able to set up other local communities to be able to supply themselves," said Moffat, noting that she is a distributor for the grow walls. "You don't have to be a corporation. It's a very much small scale, so you're getting a premium product and handpicked literally within minutes of being harvested." Providing a final comment, Moffat shared further reflection on her operation. "It's something to be seen, that's for sure. And yeah, it's been great. I've been able to stay home, and this is the plan. Keep feeding people nutritious, delicious food, and helping people get set up and growing their own and feeding their own communities," said Moffat. "And if people are interested in learning how to grow or about the system that we grow with, feel free to message me on Little Garden Next Door's social media. I'm happy to have you." And putting the fun in the fundraising. And it's safe to say that Habitat for Humanity Manitoba, Neepawa's first bingo fundraiser night, was a smash hit on Thursday, February 27th. The local initiative saw a full house that evening, as can be seen in these photos. All funds earned from the evening will aid the local Habitat for Humanity chapter with the costs of their first housing project. The official count for the funds raised by the bingo event was provided recently, showing a final income of $1,600. The Neepawa Habitat for Humanity Board extended its thanks to all who helped make it a success, stating, "Your support brings us one step closer to building homes and hope for local families." And an editorial, "I Am Faith and Family" by Tara Konhofen. Failure is not an identity. My husband and I recently have been doing a deep dive into our beliefs about failure and growth. Where did they come from? How did we get to the conclusion we got to? Were we taught that we believe, or did we interpret mistake-making as failure? We both came to realize that we both at some point in our lives took on a failure as an identity in our lives, and we need to rewire our brains to view it differently. Let me explain. When I say I failed at staying calm with my kids today, or am a failure, I take on that failure mentality as an identity. It becomes a part of who I am. But when I separate myself from the action of failing or making a mistake and look at it as a learning opportunity, my identity, who I am, whose I am, and whose image I made is not affected or changed by the failure. It was Thomas Edison who responded to questions about his failures on creating the light bulb with, "I didn't fail to make the light bulb 1,000 times. The light bulb was invented in 1,000 steps." Wow, what an amazing 1-degree shift in thinking. If we can apply this to our daily lives, how many of us would not give up or quit when something got tough, but we saw it as a stepping stone to the final result? And what would this shift in thinking do for our next generation if we can learn this, apply this, and teach it to our kids? Can you imagine telling a 1-year-old that they failed when they fell down and they shouldn't try walking again? Of course not. We applaud them when they try and they fall. And we say, "Try again, you got this. You're amazing, we're so proud of you." Now apply the same principle to yourself as an adult. How would your life change, your attitude change, how your home atmosphere would change if you championed mistakes and failures because it meant your home had trying in it? So repeat after me today. We are not failures. We are not made in the image of the High King of Heaven. We are made in the image of the High King of Heaven. We will make mistakes and we will sometimes fail, but that is a stepping stone in the growth process. If we fail and fall, it means we are learning to try. There is proof of life, and that is everything. And a bit of Beautiful Plains Archives history. Picture Doris Drysdale Wright, who was a longtime member and exhibitor with the Beautiful Plains Horticultural Society, received an honorary life membership on August 12, 1980. The presentation was made at the Flower and Vegetable Show by Dorothy Wareham, a Flower Show Committee member. We move on to the market support report by Tyler Sawinski. Spring is in the air, the geese are headed north, and cattle are still moving south for the time being as we all await the next political announcement. The futures have been climbing and stronger nearly every trading day, although they started out under pressure the morning of March 18th, but it seemed to have much effect on the market. Supply and demand is definitely holding the bottom of this cattle market in place. Processing facilities are current, and many feedlots and feed yards are not running at full capacity, and we have marketed a large number of the Canadian cattle for decent returns already. As fewer numbers of cattle trade, we start to see shortages in the market, driving up the prices in certain areas of the market. We are experiencing all-time lows when it comes to cattle numbers in many parts of the world. The market was stronger in just about every class of cattle this week. Cattle that fit for grass or breeding are selling very strong. We saw a very impressive set of cattle on Tuesday of very good quality. First cut cattle are selling strong. Most of the feeder cattle sold very strong throughout the market. Second and third cut cattle are definitely seeing big discounts. If they don't fit the orders, they are soon sorted from the packages. The cattle are still in demand, and I expect to see supplies start to run short as we get closer to spring and sending cattle to grass. We sold 1,822 head of cattle through the ring in the video in Gladstone on March 18th. Cows and bulls climbed higher with steady averages. Feeding type cows and heiferettes are still selling stronger than yielding cows. Yielding cows still traded with strength from 178 to 187, looking like strong demands. Feeding type cows are ranging between 187 to 201. Bulls traded stronger, ranging between 218 to 240. Some highlights from the sale: black steers weighed 431, traded for a ripping $6.40 per pound. Black steers weighed 552 and traded for $5.46. Black steers weighed 605 and brought $5.12. Crossbred steers weighed 770 and they hit $4.15. A ring full of black steers weighed 974 and they checked out at $3.60. Heifers, black heifers, weighed 471 and traded for $5.35. And on to some fun time, a fantasy fun at the Neepawa Library. A group of patrons to the Neepawa Public Library had fun-filled time exploring and investigating fantastical lands via dice, paper, music, and imagination on March 15th. That Saturday, a session of Dungeons and Dragons was held. This was one of the few sessions that has been hosted, with people of all ages and experience levels welcome to attend. Pictured, the dungeon master or game master provides more information on the game's current scenario as the adventuring party in the insert lends a listening ear and takes notes. And into sports, Neepawa Figure Skating Club update. Neepawa Figure Skating Club skaters Ava and McKenna are pictured in the Winter Blast event. The Neepawa Figure Skating Club, NFSC, has had a successful year of competitions. Madeline Wachowski attended the Verdun Fun Skate in January, where she brought home a silver ribbon for her Star 2 free skate and a bronze ribbon for her Star 1 elements. McKenna Sumner and Ava Wachowski attended the Skate Manitoba Winter Blast in February in Killarney. In the Star 4 free skate event, Ava won the bronze medal, while McKenna placed 5th. Neepawa was well represented at the Skate Manitoba Provincials in Portage in March. Alyssa Nadeau placed 6th, and McKenna Sumner placed 10th in the Star 7 artistic category, while Ava Wachowski placed 16th out of 27 in the Star 5 artistic category. In the Star 4 free skate, Ashley Nadeau won the silver medal, Jaden Defoe, Bailey Padruski, and Annika Sherper brought home the gold medal with their regional synchro team to become the Star 8 synchro provincial champions. The Neepawa Figure Skating Club is now preparing for the annual year-end ice show. This year's theme is Dancing Through the Decades and will include skaters from Can Skate, Senior Can Skate, and Star Skaters, with special guests Blades United Synchro Team. The March Ice Show will be held on Saturday, March 22nd from 3:30 to 5:30 at the Yellowhead Center. Admission will be a silver collection and a food donation to the local Salvation Army. Come on down to the Yellowhead to see some great skating. And Neepawa Titans Putting in the Work to Prepare for Postseason by Owen Devereaux. And pictured Mason Hartley, number 14, and the rest of the Neepawa Titans closed out the regular season with a pair of weekend wins, including a 4-2 victory over the Dauphin Kings, pictured. Hartley scored a pair of goals in that game and added 2 more, including the overtime winner versus the Verdun Oil Capitals on Saturday, March 15th. With the Neepawa Titans recently concluding regular season play in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, if they felt so inclined, they'd have ample reason to celebrate what they've already accomplished. Not only have they made the MJHL playoffs, but their 32 wins and 69 points this season are the best results any version of the franchise and its fan base have seen in the last 15 years. All of that alone would be more than enough reason to start doing some celebrating. But head coach and general manager Ken Pearson and all the players on the Titans roster are not in a very celebratory mood right now, not when there's still more work to do. No, this year's edition of the Neepawa Titans isn't just happy to be there. This year's team wants to make an impression. In preparation for their opening round series against the Northern Manitoba Blizzard, the Titans have ramped up their intensity both on and off the ice. Coach Pearson said the energy from the players in the last half dozen games, as well as at practice, has been tremendous. I think we played well the last month, trying to fine-tune a few things. They were pretty focused and worked on keeping good habits, said Pearson. As well, the off-ice efforts included film study, session on their opposition, have been exactly what the coaching staff have been hoping to see. Pearson added all the players understand this is going to be an extremely close first-round series, as the Blizzard are a fast, hard-working team who are very structured in their style of play. Games 1 and 2 will both be played in the PAW over the weekend. Both clubs will then return to Neepawa for games 3 and 4, which are scheduled for Tuesday, March 25th and Wednesday, March 26th. Start time for both those games is set at 7:30. And Killarney facing Verdun in Tiger Hills final by Owen Devereaux. The Killarney Shamrocks definitely appear to have luck on their side as they have rallied back from a 2-0 deficit to defeat the Rivers Jets in the Tiger Hills Hockey League East Division final. Killarney's 3 straight wins over Rivers allows them to advance to the Tiger Hills Hockey League Championship, where they will take on the West Division champs, the Verdun Oil Kings. After dropping games 1 and 2 in the best-of-5 series, the Shamrocks locked in to win the final 3 games over 4 nights. First, they picked up a 6-2 win at home on March 12th. There were 6 separate goal scorers for Killarney, although ECHL alum Ty Enns was the catalyst for the club with a goal and 4 assists. The next game in Rivers on Friday, March 14th, was pretty much a repeat of the last, as Killarney picked up a 5-2 decision. It was a former Neepawa Titan, Ryland Gudnason, who led the charge with a pair of goals. For the 5th and series deciding game on March 15th, the Shamrocks blanked Rivers 4-0. Enns, Reed, Opperman, Isaac Friesen, and Morgan Magwood all scored, while Brian Archibald stopped 23 shots in goal for Killarney. The Shamrocks will face the Verdun Oil Kings in the final, who swept the Hartney Blues in the West Division. Killarney, a 14-1-1 record, and Verdun, 13-2-1, were the top 2 clubs in the Tiger Hills League regular season. Face to face, it couldn't get any closer between these 2 teams, as in the one game they played against one another, it had to go to a shootout. The final in that matchup back in November was a 5-4 win for the Shamrocks. And Neepawa athlete crowned national champion by Owen Devereaux. Neepawa's Laura Denbo is part of a dynamic duo of track and field athletes who recently made history for the University of Manitoba. Denbo, along with her teammate Madison Lawrence of Winnipeg, finished in 1st and 2nd place overall for the high jump in the U Sports Track and Field Nationals. This marks the first time ever in UMM history that 2 female jumpers finished in the top 2 spots at the national championship. It's also the first time in school history that the members of the women's team have won the high jump at nationals 3 consecutive years. Lawrence won the title in 2023, while Denbo has been victorious last 2 years. In regard to the competition, both Denbo and Lawrence hit a top jump at 1.75 meters. However, Denbo claimed gold by hitting 1.72 on her first jump, while Lawrence was only able to do so on her final attempt. Officially, this is Denbo's 5th national title, as she has also won the Under-16 Legion Championships in high jump in 2018 and the Under-18 title in 2019 and the Under-20 in 2022. And a silver medal for Dax Turner. Another Neepawa resident earned themselves a place on the podium, as Dax Turner won a silver medal at the Nationals in triple jump. Turner's top jump was for 15.69 meters. This is the 2nd year in a row Dax Turner has medaled at the U Sports Nationals, as he won gold at the competition in 2024. Turner also had a personal best this year in the high jump, with a leap of 2.06 meters, which was good enough for 5th place overall in the nation. And the NACI pushed out of the WHSHL playoffs by Dauphin, by Owen Devereaux. It was a quick and sudden end to the Westman High School hockey season for the Neepawa Tigers, as they were swept in their quarterfinal series by the Dauphin Clippers. In barely over a 24-hour period, Neepawa was defeated 2-0 and officially eliminated from the postseason play. The first game was on Tuesday, March 11th in Dauphin, and saw the Clippers cruise to a 7-1 win. Cohen Kalbaki had the only goal scorer for the Tigers, with Ian Foster assisting on the play. The very next night, those clubs would face off once again, but this time in Neepawa at the Yellowhead Center. While the first period was scoreless, it did feature some physical and at times borderline play from Dauphin. The Clippers' roster on average was a bit bigger than Neepawa's and were able to use their size to disrupt the Tigers' speed advantage. For the second, Neepawa was finally able to find the seams in Dauphin's defense and create a few more scoring chances. That created an opportunity for Ben Richards to score his first of the postseason, with Kalbaki and Foster assisting. But before the end of the second, the Clippers replied back to make it 1-1 heading into the final period. Luke Nicholson scored on a power play chance for Neepawa early in the third, making it 2-1. Kalbaki and Wyatt Negavin assisted. It would be heartbreak, however, for Neepawa in the final few minutes, as Dauphin tied it up with 5.56 left in regulation. Then, while on a power play, the Tigers were caught off guard and surrendered the go-ahead goal to the Clippers with only 2 minutes 32 left in the game. Neepawa gave everything to find the equalizer, but ultimately fell 3-2. Join the discussion. Manitoba Wildlife Federation Town Hall on Hunting and Fishing Rights in Manitoba. The Manitoba Wildlife Federation, MWF, in conjunction with the Neepawa District Wildlife Association, is looking to hear your voice as they host a town hall regarding threats to licensed hunters and anglers on March 26, 7 p.m. at the Neepawa Legion. The purpose of this meeting is to hear hunters and anglers' voices regarding provincial and federal government initiatives, such as the Indigenous Protected and Conserved Areas, which the MWF claims to may hamper access to hunting, trapping, and fishing for all. The IPCAs are part of strategy developed by the Government of Canada as part of its goal to conserve 30% of Canada's land and water by 2030, run by Indigenous organizations. According to the Government of Canada's website, this is because science shows that nature needs our help to reverse the decline in biodiversity, better fight climate change, and maintain a strong, sustainable economy. According to Environment and Climate Change Canada, 647,797 acres, or 11.1% of Manitoba's lands, are already protected. 9 IPCAs are proposed within the province. Fisher River Cree Nation Conservation Areas Initiative, Chetek Lake and Anishinaabe Provincial Park Expansion Protected and Conserved Areas, Land Gardens, Manitoba's Caribou River Provincial Park to Wapusk National Park, Lenswood Kettle Hills Blueberry Patch Manitoba, Manitoba Mixed Grass Prairie Securement Program, Seal River Watershed Indigenous Protected Area Initiative, and the Nittaskani planning to protect our Hudson Bay coastal lands. Canada-wide, a total of 62 IPCAs are being worked on. Currently, 1/3 of the projects are capacity-building projects focused on preliminary work for protected and conserved areas in the longer term. According to the government website, these projects help to improve connectivity, advance Indigenous-led conservation and reconciliation, and have co-benefits for species at risk or carbon storage. Perry Sneddon of Neepawa Wildlife Federation said they feel as if the government have been creating these land policies without any proper consultation with non-Indigenous groups, and do not feel like their voices and concerns are being adequately heard and feel excluded from the process. The Neepawa Wildlife Federation is concerned with the lack of consultation. Hunting and fishing rights may be put in jeopardy. The proposed protected and conserved areas, along with reductions in licensed hunter allocations, are a concern. There is a perceived reduction in the north for unscientific and unsubstantiated reasons. Sneddon is also concerned that fishing rights may be affected as well, but finding out information is difficult. The IPCAs may involve a large part of Manitoba. As an example, the proposed Seal River IPCA may take up to 1/6 of Manitoba's land surface, running from Hudson's Bay to the Saskatchewan border and north to Nunavut. The MWF believes these initiatives could directly impact thousands of Manitoba residents and large areas of Manitoba Crown lands and natural resources. According to the MWF's website, Manitoba's hunting and fishing industries compete over $1 billion annually to our economy, supporting 5,500 jobs and generating $1.92 million in taxes for all levels of government. The MWF website states that over 50% of Manitoba companies' crown lands, which they assert is already well protected. The MWF also feels that the Canadian Parks and Wildlife Society is an organization dedicated to excluding access to protected areas and advocating for them to be managed by unelected boards and bureaucracies, and has played an unfair role in the IPCA process. So far, the MWF has been hosting town hall meetings around the province and has done 24 meetings, with more on the horizon. They have said these meetings are meant to educate and inform the public while creating a healthy dialogue. The MWF stressed that these meetings are designed to be respectful to all, and both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people are welcome to attend and share their concerns respectfully. And renovations well underway at the Minnedosa food store. And pictured, renovations are ongoing at the Heritage Co-op in Minnedosa. Shown above is an exterior view, and to the right is one of the interior views as work continues on the refreshment of the building. And finally, as always, our kids scoop, money around the world. It talks about different coins and English money and different dollar signs. And there's a word search and a puzzle. And be sure and get your kids to play on it. And that concludes the banner and press for Friday, March 21st, 2025. I hope you enjoyed.